Welcome to the Left Hook and Allison Gill's breakdown. There's so much to talk about. I just invited Allison on, and I was like, Allison, the framing of today was the Trump administration as a safe space for sex traffickers, dictators, and fraudsters. And the hits keep coming, folks. We just found out earlier today in the morning, ProPublica did a fantastic report, which they allege that the White House, of course, intervened on behalf of accused sex trafficker Andrew Tate during a federal investigation. Of course. And then we have the Epstein files. And then, of course, we have the news that among the freaks that Donald Trump pardoned, the 1,600 insurrectionists, one of them molested a girl and then is trying to use government money, taxpayer money, to pay her off and silence her. We also know that Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, is going to jail for 6 months for also assaulting a 14-year-old, molesting a 14-year-old girl. As this is happening, Donald Trump is giving the royal welcome to Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, dismissing, all the allegations, not allegations, but pretty much confirmed findings that MBS ordered the brutal murder of U.S. journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But hey, he gave $2 billion to Jared Kushner. He's apparently going to buy American missiles that will probably go to China. It's A-OK when you're doing business. As all of this is happening, folks, Donald Trump is completely underwater on Epstein, on the economy. And about 3 minutes ago, we just found out from the Washington Post that a court has blocked the GOP-friendly map in Texas, the gerrymandering that would have given them up to 5 House districts. That is some really good news. So before we get to the sex trafficking and pedophilia and corruption, let's start with some good news, Allison. This piece of news that literally just came out 5 minutes ago. Court blocked it.
Yeah, and I read it in the Texas Tribune a little while ago, shared it. And it's something that I didn't know about was that this can only be appealed directly to the Supreme Court. Let me find that bit of information. It was not immediately clear if they still have a legal path to restoring their new gerrymandered map in time for 2026. Unlike most federal lawsuits, which are heard by a single district judge and then appealed to a circuit judge, voting rights lawsuits are initially heard first by a 2-district judge panel and 1 circuit judge, a 3-judge panel. And their ruling can only be appealed directly to the U.S. Supreme Court. So this isn't going to go from a district judge to a circuit court to an en banc circuit court to a Supreme Court. It's going to go directly to the Supreme Court. And we also have some lawsuits in California where Republicans are suing our new over our new maps. And if the Ninth Circuit disagrees with this circuit, if the Ninth Circuit says these maps are good, our Democratic maps are good, and the Texas maps are bad, that conflict is something that the Supreme Court has to sort out anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see if California maps survive the same thing. Whatever the Supreme Court decides here will probably also apply. Although the difference between Texas and California is that we put it on our ballot. And so we might have a leg up there. We might not be considered a similarly situated case because, like Democrats, we asked for consent. And so that's kind of where we are right now.
But you know what? I think this is a good strategic move, and I'm so glad that Democrats, and specifically California, Newsom, I will give him credit where credit's due, went ahead with Prop 50, because my concern was that this would go to the Supreme Court. And now the Supreme Court, which is thoroughly corrupt, with the majority of right-wing hacks in black robes, they're going to be in an interesting pickle, right? Because with California passing Prop 50, and like you said, it's different because it was done on the ballot, but nonetheless, it will give California, I think, 5 extra seats? Allison?
5.
Right? And then also, Illinois could still do it. New York could still do it, right? Now the Supreme Court, if it does allow the Republicans, and let's be honest, they just want to help the Republicans get away with this in Texas, they also now have to reconcile with California doing it, right? So I'm very curious, right, if they go down this road, because they're like, shit, if we help Trump and Republicans do this in Texas, it's going to be really, really hard for us to find some Play-Doh excuse to not let, New York or Illinois or California do it. And plus, the poll numbers ain't looking good. for Donald Trump. And plus,
And
we just saw the blue
not only that,
tsunami.
Waj, the blue tsunami, but not only that, Waj, but there are Republicans in other states that are refusing to gerrymander because they don't have
Indiana.
the votes. Indiana, I think Missouri. So
I know they're putting pressure on Ohio. They've been putting pressure on Ohio for about a couple of months. But Ohio's like, I don't think this is going to go well for us.
or maybe Missouri passed it. I can't recall. But regardless, we're going to get a mandate from the Supreme Court that says nobody can do it or everybody can do it. And there might be a carve out for nobody can do it unless you got the permission from the voters. I don't know that they'll necessarily do that because that would be a clear advantage to Democrats because we got permission from our voters. But we'll see. We'll see what the Supreme Court ends up saying and whether or not there will be time for everybody to adjust their maps by 2026. So this is a bit of good news, and it at least sets up a potential conflict that the Supreme Court will have to uh, resolve, regardless of you know who's saying what and which courts are ruling which way. But it was always going to end up at the Supreme Court. But I think it'll just end up there faster now. And there may be even a request for expedited review based on the fact that the 2026 elections are less than a year away.
It's a huge hit. It's a huge hit against Donald Trump and Republicans that will really piss him off on the same day that there's a scheduled vote by the House against for releasing the Epstein files, and Schumer said he'll bring it to the Senate. As this is happening, folks, Donald Trump is completely underwater on the Epstein files, negative 35 points, which with the majority of Americans wanting the release of the Epstein files. Thomas Massie earlier today, about 3 hours ago, said something that we've been saying is that you really don't need a vote. Donald Trump could order the release of the Epstein file. He could literally just call Pam Bondi and say, release the Epstein files. A judge said that in the summer. He goes, yeah, you don't need me to do it. DOJ can do it. The Epstein files, trickle, trickle, trickle. Economy is going bad. And as the economy is going terrible and people are losing a snap, and as the Department of Education, some other sad news that came out today is essentially being utterly dismantled. And furthermore, USAID, as a result of Republicans dismantling USAID, they said, Allison, up to 300,000 people have been killed.
Most of them children.
300,000 people. Yeah, most of them children, vulnerable, marginalized communities, right? And they're holding great Gatsby parties. He's given $40 billion to Milei. He's made about $5 billion on the crypto grift. He's passed the Genius Act, the first pro-crypto legislation, right? Him and his AI buddies are making money, even though the AI bubble might burst. People are selling NVIDIA and shorting the stock. Whoopsie, we told you about that. It's happening much sooner. So the juxtaposition, Allison, of him openly grifting, openly welcoming Qatar and its jets and its Air Force facility, right? Openly now literally feting MBS, a killer, a dictator. Friggin' jets flew, Saudi Arabian flags. He had the whole pomp and circumstance. And folks, he's sitting there with MBS running cover for him, completely dismissing all questions about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, saying literally he said, "Oh, Saudi Arabia has been fantastic on human rights." The juxtaposition of these two images, Allison, it do you see the cracks happening? Because I think a majority of Americans are like, this mother effer is feting MBS, giving $40 billion to Milei, having a great Gatsby party, making millions, and telling me that the economy is great and prices are down, where I can't afford my car payments, I can't afford healthcare, I don't have a job.
Well, there's something else too. We're dragging the corporate media into this because you know that Paramount Skydance bid to buy Warner Brothers, the money that they're using to buy to propose to buy these is 71 billion from Arab sovereign wealth funds,
Oh,
including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Dubai. So that's another.
made me sneeze.
Oh, I know you're allergic. You're allergic to
Yeah, I'm
to that.
allergic to corruption. I'm sorry. Ugh, okay, I'm back.
So that Skydance, Paramount, Warner Brothers, which is CNN, um, is being bought with Saudi and Qatar and Dubai money.
I mean, folks, it's so blatantly, nakedly corrupt. Jared Kushner got $2 billion from Saudi Arabia for his firm that does something. I want to remind people, if I may, real quick, some receipts. First Trump administration, Jared Kushner visits MBS, comes back. Less than a week later, MBS does his Game of Thrones red winning purge, consolidates power. Many people say that he tipped off Jared Kushner, who gave him the green light to do it. First
And
trip.
gave him the intelligence also, is what was reported. Jared Kushner actually gave him the names of the traitors to the crown, so that he could go after them. And shortly after that is also when they dismembered Jamal Khashoggi.
2018. And also the first trip that Donald Trump took was to Saudi Arabia, where he did a curtsy, and then Steve Bannon, major Islamophobe, for the money, has no problem, danced with swords. Jared Kushner, according to MBS, used to brag that he had Jared Kushner in his back pocket. Saudi Arabia then gives Kushner $2 billion. Saudi Arabia and the same characters, the Gulf states, give the Witkoffs. They just gave them $1.5 billion. MBS makes, right now, today in the White House, he makes a promise, Allison, to invest up to $1 trillion. No details, as usual, with Donald Trump, but he just believes. He takes MBS at his word. Qatar,
And let me just interrupt you here because this is where Ice Cube got involved into all this. Do
tell me
you
more.
recall this? He wanted to start a basketball league and needed financing and was going to go to Kushner to do it. And one of his partners said that he dropped out of that because he didn't want any of that money because it was going to come from MBS. And that's when we learned that Zamel and Nader, that guy who's in prison for child sex trafficking and child sex abuse, put together that deal with the White House and ended up paying him $5 million in cryptocurrency for all of the social media ops. And Zamel, by the way, Zamel and Nader are mentioned in this latest tranche of Epstein files by Bannon and Epstein. So the whole thing, everyone's like, the Epstein files are distracting us from the oligarchy. The Epstein
Nope.
files they are the oligarchy.
There you go.
Um, they're it's the main component of it. But that's how Ice Cube got involved. And I remember doing the Mueller She Wrote podcast, and I had somebody sent me a photo of Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia at his murder board, like going crazy. And but they put my
Greatly.
head on it. They put my head on it, and like Ice Cube and Zamel are in it with Nader to get money. But one of the things that came out in one of the court filings from this guy who wanted to pull out from the Ice Cube deal said that, well, why didn't you want to take this money from Saudi? And he's like, because, I mean, if they can bribe Jared Kushner, I don't want to be part of that. Like, I can see what this is. I don't want to take this blood money. So anyway, I just
No,
wanted
but
to.
it is all connected. I'm glad you said that because the Epstein files is like the WhatsApp for the world's worst. It's like the Epstein files is like a group chat of the broligarchy, right? And we said, the Trump White House is a safe space for dictators and sex traffickers. Well, let's talk about sex traffickers or alleged sex traffickers or alleged friends of sex traffickers. Speaking about Jared Kushner, about yesterday, a report came out that Jared Kushner invited Epstein to party with Donald Trump and Harvey Weinstein in 2013. Epstein turned to academics and academia to repair his image after the Miami Herald investigation. Sadly, he turned to MIT scholars, one of them being Noam Chomsky, to rehab his image. Another one was Larry Summers of Harvard. And Larry Summers of Harvard, some big piece of news from yesterday. And I think this is another big piece of good news because Allison and I, well, I have the gray hairs, but we've been around. And you know
I
how
do.
this,
I do.
you know how this, I see it. I see it. I was
People
talking to
think
Mike
it's
Nellis.
highlights.
Oh, the highlights. See, I don't highlight it. That's it. I'm salt and pepper, baby.
Mm-mm.
I was talking to Mike Nellis, and I was saying I'm old enough. I remember the war on terror. All the cheerleaders failed up in life. Dick Cheney just got I predicted it. Biden and Harris were like, "Oh, Dick Cheney was a great man." No, he wasn't. They all fail up down here, right? It's a big club, and you ain't in it. The town protects its own. And the town, folks, is corporate media, business, and politics. If you're part of the club, Allison is not part of the club. I'm not part of the club. If you're part of the club, they protect their own. They all fail up. And so it's rare to see some type of comeuppance, very rare. When it happens, you have to just sit back and celebrate it. Allison, your take on the Larry Summers of it all. I'm sure you saw the news yesterday where apparently he is stepping back. And according to Harvard students, his Harvard room is completely empty.
Well, there's now a new sham investigation into Epstein's uncharged co-conspirators. But everybody needs to be mindful. And I know some of the survivors talked about this today during their press conference. I've talked to some of the survivors about this. I covered it on the breakdown this weekend on Midas. But there was an open and ongoing investigation into Epstein and Maxwell's uncharged co-conspirators. It was a massive, sprawling investigation where dozens and dozens of survivors were offering testimony and evidence. They were investigating, billions of dollars in transactions that weren't red flagged by banks like Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan Chase. And it was a huge, massive investigation being conducted at the Southern District of New York as recently as this January. It was opened in under the Biden administration, which is why, if anybody says, why couldn't Biden release the files? It's because they had an open and ongoing investigation. You can't release the evidence while you're doing that. But then Trump came in, killed that investigation, fired the prosecutors that were running it, stole the files, and then shut it down and killed it. And in July said that the reason that they're not opening they don't have enough evidence to predicate opening a new investigation. They put that in an FBI memo. I can show you the memo. But then he realizes that there's going to be hundreds of Republicans turning on him to vote for the release of the Epstein files. He wants to be on the winning team.
Yep.
So he opens a sham investigation and installs his own person so he can control it. So he can sit on it and do nothing. And even if he signs the bill, which he says he's going to sign to release the Epstein files, the Department of Justice can say, we can't release any of it because there's an open and ongoing investigation, even though there's not. They did this to the Stormy Daniels hush money case as well in New York, when they told the district attorney in Manhattan, the state people, the DOJ has taken this over. The feds are going to take this over. And they fired the Southern District of New York guy for the Department of Justice, put in their own person, and then sat on that investigation until the end of Trump's term they did nothing in hopes that they could run out the statute of limitations, which ended up not working because the governor of New York actually extended the criminal statute of limitations long enough to be able to charge beyond the statute of limitations. And they did that because of COVID. They used COVID as the reason, which was also Trump's fault, which is kind of funny. He did it to himself. But that kind of catch and kill for investigations is something that the Trump administration has long done. They did it with the Halk Bank, the Turkish bank. You remember that. Bill Barr engineered the catch and kill of that. Now, it eventually went forward. But they caught and killed Mueller. They caught and killed the obstruction. They caught and killed everything that they could. Cohen, Stormy Daniels, hush money.
Yep.
And they're doing it now with the Epstein files so that Trump can act like he wants them released, even though he spent all day calling Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert to try to get them to unsign the discharge petition. And Mike Johnson is probably sitting in a meeting in the Situation Room, because that's where they talk about Epstein stuff, saying, how do you want me to go from being really against releasing the files, keeping the government shut down and keeping the House at home? How do you want me to go from that to supporting releasing the Epstein files? I know, we'll open an investigation. And then the Department of Justice becomes the enemy. They did it when they asked to release the Epstein files for testimony in grand jury proceedings. And they asked the court, knowing the court would say no. Right? The court's going to say no. And then he could say, look, I tried, but the court said no. He's going to do the same thing. I tried, but Department of Justice, it's the rules. I got to follow the rules. I'm a rule follower.
I'm a stickler. No, but even in that case, I really appreciate bringing up that receipt, because the judge himself in that case said, I'm not going to release the files and compromise the names of the victims. Oh, by the way, DOJ, you can release the files, right? And that was several months ago, folks. And the DOJ, even now, folks, I want to remind you all, they do not need any votes. Massey said it himself 3 hours ago. He says, Yeah, Massey openly told people, we don't need the vote in the House. Donald Trump can just release the files. Pam Bondi was on Fox News saying, I have the files right here, right? Dan Bongino promised it. Kash Patel promised it. But then they read the files. And once they read the files, Allison, I'm guessing they saw a name appear more than any other name. And I think that name rhymed with Ronald Rump.
They
And
had
I,
to create Excel spreadsheets to log the number of times that this appeared. They had 1,000 people doing
plural.
it, and they locked those people in the building and wouldn't let them leave and made them work 24 and 48-hour shifts, forcing them to look at this horrific material. Many of them broke down doing that. And so, the only conclusion I can come to is in July when they closed down all the investigations is that there wasn't any evidence and that there's no client list, is because if they released it, the redactions would tell more of a story than what was under them. The number of redactions, people would be like, how many times is Donald Trump in these things? It was so many times that the redactions would give away the game.
Oh, even last week in the emails that were released, the name that ends up the most in the emails that were released, just the 20,000 emails, was Donald Trump. And this was Mark Epstein, Epstein's brother, yesterday on News Nation. Quote, the reason they're going to be releasing these things, the reason for the flip, is that they're sanitizing these files. There's a facility in Winchester, Virginia, where they're scrubbing the files to take Republican names out. And Allison was the first one to break that. And she was also the first one to break that these FBI agents were all using the same Excel sheet. And so that means there's going to be leaks, folks. There's going to be leaks because you better believe it. Some of these FBI agents copy pasted that information, took photos of information. There's that leak that they can't plug, the FBI agents, thousands of them, all working off the same Excel sheet. They can't plug the leak of Ghislaine Maxwell, who, folks, her ass ain't going to stay in jail. If I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, and like I've said before, I'll say again, if I see George Santos out there smiling, CZ of Binance out there smiling, 1,600 insurrectionists out there smiling, I ain't gonna stay in jail for 20 years. F that. Her estate is the one that not probably, let's be honest, gave Wall Street Journal the Epstein birthday book that contained Donald Trump's lewd message and drawing. So you got the Ghislaine Maxwell leak you got to plug. You got the Epstein estate that you got to plug because, folks, Mark Epstein, his brother, has already given Democrats thousands of documents that they haven't released, and there's more. And then finally, as Allison said, you have the survivors, the women who were girls who are now more and more emboldened. And I'm sure you saw that very powerful ad. I think that came out during the weekend, Allison, where about 5 or 6 of these Epstein survivors, right, they're standing there with photos of themselves when they were girls, when they were raped. And they literally said, I was 16, 14, 14, 15, 16. And there's thousands of survivors and girls, right? So this is like someone said in the comment drip. I think we're I don't think you can escape this. And as that's happening, I don't know if you saw this news. Well, I want to repeat it. God, these are the worst people. The White House, the Trump White House, intervened on behalf of accused sex trafficker Andrew Tate during a federal investigation. Andrew
Mm. Yeah, well, it's inappropriate for which White House? This sounds like par for the course, to me. Oh, you disappeared for a second, but I show that you're back now. I think they're just a couple seconds behind on their comments. Um, the House is right now voting to release the Epstein files, and it looks like so far it's a unanimous yes. There's no nay votes right now. 153 yes so far. I see you. Hey, everybody, do you see Waj? Is Waj back? Comment that Waj is back if you see Waj. Because I see you just fine. I think the comments are always delayed about a minute or two, and you did disappear for a second, but you came back. Okay. How do I invite people? Where is the ad? I can't because you're in charge. All right. Everyone can only just see me talking to myself. This is pretty cool. All right. Uh, all right. I think I have to end this and then pop back on.
Hey everyone, you see me now? That's so weird. All right. So you all see me now. Thank you so much. That's the strangest thing that's ever happened. Uh, Allison said, send invite to me again, and I have. I have never seen that before. That was wild. So thank you all. That was like the Sopranos ending, where it just ends and you have no idea. Did Tony Soprano survive? Did he not? But apparently, I'm still alive so far, and I have invited Allison again. Allison says she can't get it, so let me respond to her one more time. We'll get Allison here. We're gonna make it happen. Allison, now see we got this is hope. This is like a great microcosm of America. There's darkness, but there's still a light there, and you can see. So what happened, Allison, was I was saying it was a great microcosm of America. Is that like it was a Sopranos episode where it just goes dark, and we're like, is he alive? Is he dead? And you still hear someone's voice, and there's like, no, there's hope. Don't give up. And then from the void, we come back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Woo! That is the weirdest thing that has ever happened.
The House, they have enough votes to pass it. It's, they're up at to 267
Oh, it's
yes
done.
votes, and no votes. It's still unanimous.
No Nova? Wow.
Wish we could get this kind of vote on healthcare. 264, uh, 335, 1 no vote from a Democrat. That probably is a mistake. Hmm. 337 to 1 right now as we're
Who's the one? That's weird.
I
Who's the
think it
one?
might be I think it might be, I can't tell. It might be an error. Sometimes they hit the wrong button sometimes and then it changes. But I don't know. Maybe one Democrat is against this because it's a sham. I don't know. I don't know.
I was talking to Mike about this, um, and I wanted your take. And I think I know where I'm pretty sure I know where you stand. But I recall Nancy Pelosi in the summer. She was on with Chris Jansing of MSNBC, and this is when the polls were still the same, folks. A majority of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, wanted the release of the Epstein files. And Nancy said, "I just think this is a distraction, and people don't care." I'm like, "What?" And my concern there is, if we have to be honest, folks, and we should be honest, it's not just Epstein. It's not just Trump. Larry Summers is now retreating into our corner because he was straight up emailing this pedophile for advice about girls he wanted to bang while he was married. Prince Andrew is just Andrew now because Virginia Giuffre's memoir came out and finally the British royal family's like, enough is enough. There are a lot of people who participated with Epstein in the trafficking of girls. A lot of people whose names will be in these files. Some of them are Democrats. And I'm curious, Allison, if you think the old guard, and I'm not using old as a pejorative, but the establishment realizes, ooh, this might be a bad look because, folks, Larry Summers, guess who's advising Project 2029 for corporate Democrats? Larry Summers. Guess who Democrats brought out to do a hit piece on Mamdani? Larry Summers. Guess who's still on the board of directors for the Center for American Progress? Larry Summers. Do you think some of these Democrats are like, we have to protect the legacy and name of Bill Richardson and Larry Summers and donor Bill Gates, and that's why they kind of are slow walking this?
I don't know. That's a weird position to take. I don't think anybody knew who Larry Summers was until this week.
I knew.
But you know, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know who Roger Stone is. So, it's why would you, change your worry about your messaging on Larry Summers? It just seems odd, doesn't it? But it's certainly not a distraction. And I thought that was an odd thing to say. I really, it continues to, uh, it never ceases, we'll say. It never ceases to amaze me that some folks up at the tippy top are so out of touch with what the American people want and what the American people need. That's why campaigns like Mamdani's did so well. That's why we did so well in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race. It's people who listen to us. And I don't know how to get them to break from their donor class. I remember saying that there was a Democratic senator. I think it might have been. I don't want to say because I don't want to impugn anybody that if I don't have all the facts exactly right in my head. But I know that there's a Democratic senator that took almost $1 million from AIPAC. And my thought was to be connected to that PAC for $1 million when if you detached yourself from that PAC, you would raise $1 million in 10 minutes. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
Do you
I
know?
don't get it. And I feel like we're witnessing folks like there's a lot happening today, folks. Right now, and again, some people said there's one no vote. I'm on the New York Times. I'm seeing how every member is voting. Right now, I see 397 yeses. I see 0 nos. What do you see, Allison? 196 Dems, 201 Republicans. Wow. This is
407. Okay, the Democratic no vote went away, but one Republican no vote is on the board now.
too bad.
Uh, it I,
Why
I
would you
can't.
why would you be a Republican no vote on this? That'd be anyway, well, why would you support Donald Trump, who's
Did
pretty
Matt
much
Gates get
already
back into Congress and I missed it? I don't know.
yeah, yeah, there you go. I see it. 415 total yeses now, 203 Dems, 0 nos on the Dems, 212 Republicans, 1 no vote on the Republicans. Okay, very curious. Who doesn't want the release of the Epstein files, which over 80% of Americans want released? I look,
Again, could
Do-
be an error.
Donald Trump is stuck. And the reason why I think he's stuck is you and me have been following this for a while. And you and I know that Donald Trump, first and foremost, called it a hoax. Then he said, no, it's real. Then he said, investigate Democrats and only Democrats. Uh, Before that, we know that he sent his personal attorney, Todd Blanche, to talk to Glenn Maxwell. Less than a week later, Ghislaine Maxwell gets a transfer that no other person with her record has ever gotten before to a minimum club fed, where all the leaks are coming out that she's being pampered and the inmates hate her, and she's asking for a commutation of her sentence. Yesterday, Allison, when asked again about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell for the second time now in front of cameras, he didn't say no. You mentioned this, and I'm glad you did, because I always try to bring this receipt as well. As in August, instead of just holding a vote on the Epstein files, and this was before Adelita Grijalva was elected, so they didn't have a guaranteed 218 votes. But Mike Johnson was so afraid of even holding a vote on releasing the Epstein files, he called a recess where he's like, let me just shut down the House. And these Republicans went and visited Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal in Israel, right? They have done everything, and by they I mean the Trump administration, has done everything to show the world that he's guilty as F and or he's trying to hide something. Because if he has nothing to hide, he has nothing to lose by releasing the Epstein files. So let's map this out, Allison. The vote's going to go. It's already done. What's going to happen later tonight when Trump comes out? See, I told you they voted for it. Okay, I'm done. How are they
Well,
going to spin this?
he's already said he's asked the Congress to vote yes on this, and he said he will sign it.
Okay, so that's
But
done.
what's going to happen is that he'll put a request into the Department of Justice to release the files. I, Donald Trump, hereby order you to release the files. And then the Department of Justice is going to say, we have an open and ongoing investigation, sir. We can't release the files when there's an open and ongoing investigation. And then Donald Trump will say, I tried. I did everything I could.
Yeah, and I think this is why we have to remind people, bro, you can release the files. I think that should be our talking point from now on. I think you have to remind people that the DOJ, well, now there's an open investigation. But before that, the DOJ could have released the Epstein files. That's number one. Because
I don't know why in January they just didn't come out and say, what we got here, we'd love to release the files, but there's an open and ongoing investigation into the Epstein.
Because they're stupid and they're reckless and we're.
No, because that wasn't that investigation. They weren't control. They didn't control that investigation.
It was the
He had
Biden
to
investigation, right? Yeah.
he had to stop. He couldn't just say, he could have come in and said, "Oh, we noticed there was already an open and ongoing investigation. We can't release the files." They wouldn't have had to do that dumb phase 1 BS where they gave the binders to the right-wing people. They could have said, hey, we got here. There's an open and ongoing investigation into the Epstein files. They couldn't tell us that because he had to kill it, steal the files, fire the prosecutors, and then open his own that he can control and sit on and do nothing with. That's why they didn't tell us there was an open and ongoing investigation.
This is the biggest, I've said it, I'll say it again. I believe when all is said and done, we're in the middle of the biggest political cover up in modern history. And seeing some of the names like Larry Summers, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton.
My friend, by the way, says Clay Higgins is the sole no vote. It's
Of
Clay
course.
Higgins.
Good job, Clay Higgins. That one's going to haunt you, buddy. Seeing names like Andrew, Donald Trump, all part and parcel of this, in some way, shape, or form, of this disgusting sex trafficking pedophile ring, these billionaires club. I think it's just a matter of time, Allison. There's too many eyeballs on this. Too many Americans know about it. Too many Americans.
There's so many other sources that we can get files from. This 23,000 email tranche we just got came from the Epstein estate. And Mark Epstein doesn't like Donald Trump. And he just doesn't like him at all. You'll recall, he actually hired his own coroner to look into the death of his brother, Jeffrey Epstein, because he didn't think that it was suicide. And so he and you can, as evidenced by Mark Epstein writing an email saying, does Putin have pictures of Trump blowing Bubba? Like, he doesn't like Donald Trump. So, and from a lot of these emails, I don't think Epstein did either, because I think he did him dirty on that one Rob Lovlev real estate deal. But anyway, and, stole women who they considered to be property, girls, I should say, who they considered to be property from one another. So there's plenty of sources for these things to come out besides the Department of Justice. And even if none of this happened, the Department of Justice was never going to release those files anyway.
No.
They just weren't.
And so that's the main thing, folks, is I just want you all to realized that the Trump administration is not all of a sudden done a 180. The Trump administration realized, oh shit, we can't bully our base on this issue. It's still part of the cover up. They ain't never, ever going to release the Epstein files as long as Pam Bondi and Trump are there. However, what we have is, as Allison said, you got the Epstein estate. You've got Ghislaine Maxwell, who's going to keep dripping, dripping, dripping until she gets pardoned. Guarantee it, folks. She's going to get that pardon from Donald Trump. And people say, well, that'll make Donald Trump look bad. And my response is, imagine how much worse it will be if she actually releases the stuff. Meaning,
Mhm.
he probably realizes it's better for me just to pardon her and let her go like live her life in Italy than her actually release more shit about me. You also have the survivors who are paying attention and are emboldened. You have also the tranche that the FBI has seen. So I think inshallah, drip, 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 more and more.
It
But just
passed.
hmm? It
It
passed. There you
passed.
go.
Gavel down, 427-1. 5 people aren't there.
Clay Higgins. He goes, I'm going to go bat for you, Donald Trump. Remember me, Donald Trump? And Donald Trump's like, who are you again? Huh? Are you,
I told you to vote for it. I told you to vote for it. Mhm.
I told you, I don't know who you are, Clay Higgins. So folks, eyes wide open. Just realize what's happening right now. It's all theater for Donald Trump and the Justice Department. They're not going to release shit. If they do, it's him signing his own death warrant because he's all over the Epstein files, according to Epstein, who told Michael Wolff, who told me and others. Again, I don't think Michael Wolff will lie about this. Michael Wolff said that he saw photos that Epstein showed him of young girls sitting on Donald Trump's lap. And he also saw a photo of young girls pointing and giggling at Donald Trump's crotch where there was a wet stain. And that apparently is not the worst photo. So, as Allison said, think about the thousands of FBI agents who have seen this, and some whistleblowers are saying they're traumatized by what they've seen. This will come out, and it's our job to keep putting up the pressure, especially against this weakened presidency, where it's the fissures, folks. The fissures are Massey, MTG, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tim Dillon. Economy's going to shit. A New York City cornered rat, sewer rat, which is Donald Trump, uh, will get far more vicious and desperate because he will chew through anything and everyone to stay alive. But we have the numbers. Allison, I kept you longer than I asked for, but because the man was against us, it's a conspiracy. As soon as we start talking about the Epstein files, I went dark and you went dark, but we came back. Allison, final word to you.
Pew, pew, pew. I
Pew,
got
pew,
a little
pew.
spidey vibes because we came back. Um, just thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for everybody. We got a couple thousand people here. Awesome. In the middle of the day on a Tuesday. That's amazing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting MullerSheWrote.com here on Substack. Thanks for supporting The Left Hook. We really appreciate you. We couldn't do this without you. It's free to subscribe because we're terrible capitalists. If you do have the means to kick us a little bit of money, that's cool, but not necessary. We don't really put anything behind paywalls ever. But I just want to thank everybody for being voices for what's really going on here. If we all, whenever you hear somebody say, oh, Trump wants to release the Epstein files, the DOJ won't let him, make sure to remind them what actually happened, that he killed an open and ongoing investigation. He killed it. He stole the files. He fired the prosecutors. And then he opened his own sham investigation so he could sit on this and not have to release the files. Now he's got to worry about how to plug up Ghislaine Maxwell, the 1,000 or so FBI and DOJ people who have eyes on these files, and the Epstein estate and the survivors. And military flyovers aren't going to work. So I just want to thank everybody for listening and to continue to make sure everybody has that correct information because the truth is important.
Truth is important, and also we need justice and accountability for the girls who are now women, but the girls who were raped. And we need accountability, and we need these oligarchs to feel fear for the first time. And maybe, just maybe, the ghost of Regina Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein will be the one thing that can finally bring some of these people down. And Lord knows we need some truth, justice, and accountability these days. Thank you, Allison, for taking the time as always. I know you're super busy. Folks who joined us a bit late, almost 2,200 people. It'll be up later on the breakdown on the left hook. No paywalls. Everything's free. If you have a few dollars, give it to Allison. If there's a few dollars left over, give it to me. As you know, I have 800 kids. If not, just use the information. All the people, Mike Nellis told me, I had no idea. All the hearts and the likes, apparently they help with the algorithm. I had no idea. So thank you for the hearts. And then for the follows, like I said, we're all free. Just subscribe for free and then share this. It really helps both of us. And apparently that's how the elves and the algorithm operate. So thank you all for watching. We'll be back. Be kind to each other. Be informed. And please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Allison. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lawrence. Good to see you.